Well, just a little background. I, like the world, in 1991 when she won the prize under detention, I was actively involved since 1977 in Burma, thrown out by Ne Win 3 times, left the monastery in 84, came back in 87, 88, 88, 88, the world before, a year before Tiananmen Square. And then Dasu comes back to Burma to be with her dying mother. No
That's
one
right.
knew of her. And then she wins the Nobel Peace Prize. Who is this woman? 95. She's released from 6 years of detention. I get a call from a French publisher. You've been to Burma. Can you meet with Dasu? I said, well, I don't know. I've written books and films. I went in underground through my friend U Tin U, the former general under Ne Win. He introduced me. I met her for the first time in her house, 54 University Avenue, in late 1995. And like the rest of the world, we were radically impressed what we knew about her. Standing down soldiers, winning the prize as a non-violent, feminine-inspired Gandhi, a Buddhist, a multi-faith, gorgeous, Oxford-educated, aristocratic family, General Aung San. She had everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we met, and I presented a book to her, and she said, fine, we'll do anything that you want to support my people. That was one of the number one characteristics that I remember from Dasu, is she is not about her. She is about the people. And no matter what you may find critical of her, it is so complex to navigate 135 ethnicities in your country, 100 different dialects and languages, convulsing from years of war, the British occupation, white imperialism, no one ever talks about it. General Aung San, a young terrorist, throwing grenades to get rid of this, evil UK white supremacist, occupier, and then 75 years of dictatorship. Dasu tried everything that I could see, and I asked all the questions. I met her colleagues, her friends, I knew her husband, her children. I'm looking carefully for angles. I find her personally, in my humble opinion, remarkable. Why? Number one, she is my ideal politician. Not only as a woman, but as a compassionate person. Point two, caring about the people. Ma Su, the great mother. Why is she a great mother? Because I care about the people, like a good mother. Two, where do you in the world see a leader, much less a spiritual person, dedicated to nonviolence? And mind you, she graduated from revolutionary to elected leader. That meant inheriting the Tamada. Never had a thing to do with them except her father started that institution. And for 75 years, ever since Ne Win did his coup in 62, that military went from a dignified sort of U Thant murders in 76, the coup in 62, disposed of U Nu. Slowly, they became corrupted through indoctrination. Point three, she's for the people, she's a healer, she's nonviolent, and she knows how to deal with decoding indoctrination. I don't think anyone would understand the circumstances in Burma unless you understand mind control, propaganda, indoctrination, the psychology of totalitarianism. Because Ming Online is manifesting epic evil, that's easy, but really the psychology of it is quintessential toxic masculine totalitarianism. He's a duplicate of Xi Jinping in a uniform without a tie. He's just a dictator. What does that mean? Dasu, U Tin U, U Win Tin, U Chi Mong, U A Win, U Win Tain, how many others I met there? I could have dialogues with them about the psychology of violence, the psychology of dictatorship, the manipulation of other people, and mind control. So my point is, not only is nonviolence something very rooted in her heart, but she's psychologically wise. How can you deal with someone like, say, the Tamada, the Ming Online, what I call the acronym MASAC, the greatest evil organization on the planet today, without understanding the psychology of why they do what they do? My point? She always told me in our interviews, we must as a people learn to ask why do they do what they do, not just criticize what they're doing. We're not a human rights organization pointing out human rights violations alone. We want to know the why are they doing that and remove those conditions from the collective psychology of the people. Hard task. When you've got 75 years from Ne Win to Tom Shui to Sam Mong to Ming Online and Kin Yun and all programmed, indoctrinated, robotic, mass hypnosis. Burma's military is hypnotized by the leaders of that Tamada. And that's the psychology of dictatorship. And she's hip to that. Why do I say that? Because I've talked to her. And she's told me about it. We've written about it in our books. I've filmed them all. She understands what it means to use the power of mindfulness to control her own passions. Mindfulness is all over the world today. So people think of her as, how does she get to be so disciplined? How can she refrain from violence? Because she's a meditator, which is really interesting to me as a leader. President Biden's not a meditator. Donald Trump is not a meditator. Point 7. You cannot be a leader in Burma, and I know she's been faulted for this, without being not just multi-faith, but incredible range of ethnic people. I mean, Burma is like a kind of a microcosm of the planet. It's like a mini United Nations there. Where do you get to say 135 different ethnicities in a country the size of France? And she's hip to that. Not easy to deal with the complexities of Karen State, Rakhine State, obviously, Priscilla's home, Chin State, Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, atheist, Jews. She's trained in the West, in Oxford. Her mother, as you know, ambassador to India. So she's got the UN behind her. She knows how to deal with the complexity, but she's a Burman gone abroad to study how to be part of a democracy in a totalitarian country. I've never seen a bigger task, and we're seeing it right now. Almost impossible to rid Burma, Myanmar, of this corruption of consciousness. So those are some of the points that I found in her. She's super smart, super funny, and people criticize her for being arrogant or, haughty. Listen, I'm an ordinary lower middle class American. I grew up in a trailer. My parents were in the military. She's aristocracy in Burma. Her father was the general of the army, started the damn thing. It's a big deal. Mm-hmm. And, her mother was an ambassador, delivered independence for the country from 135 years of occupation. You got to give her some room to be who she is. She's a character. She's quality. And my point is that she is not really self-deprecating, but she is very open about her limitations and her faults and her transgressions. I've seen them. She's short-tempered. She can easily be seen as arrogant at times. And a lot of really smart people are arrogant. And also, I don't know whether you know, in Myanmar culture, they're pretty open about blunt talk in some cases. They don't mind calling someone stupid or foolish. And so she's upfront about this. Listen, I don't want to vilify the dictatorship more than they already do themselves, but it's really stupid behavior. But our role is to believe in another point, which is she talks about something deeper than forgiveness, which is very rare in the world to hear this. I'm not even advocating a Truth and Reconciliation Council. I'm saying, let's restore rule of law where there is none. And let's talk about our differences in terms of the country, keep them out of The Hague, keep them out of the UN. Hey, listen, thank you very much, but let us develop some autonomy, guys, after 135 years of white supremacist occupation. We're not a slave state to you people. Let us have some autonomy. So she wants to reconcile through dialogue without punitive measures, without incarceration, without the criminal court. She doesn't want to punish the people, even Ming Online or the former dictators, which is very rare. So she told me, our rule here as leaders is not to vilify the enemy, not to demonize them. Where do you hear that? Look at Donald Trump, look at Biden. My country, everyone gets off on criticizing other people. You're not cool and smart if you don't criticize people up front. Daw Suu was so vilified by the international corporate media. Did you ever hear her call them a bad name? I mean, that takes mind control. That's a very rare quality, to be that composed inside, to go from international Nelson Mandela as female to broken angel, where Sir Bob Geldof called her the handmaiden of genocide. I dare you, Mr. Geldof. You've never met the woman. You've never been to Myanmar. What do you know other than what you've read in the BBC or CNN? So to study Daw Suu, you must really look carefully at corporate media manipulation and propaganda. I studied it carefully. Daw Suu is not in collusion with ethnic cleansing. You study what she did in The Hague, word by word, and she just challenged the label of genocide. Let us take care of this in the country, and if there are crimes or crimes against humanity, we'll deal with it internally. She didn't throw the Rohingya under the bus. Another point that people overlook, I can go on like this, but my country it's beautiful, it's profound, it's creative, unbelievable music, great theater, but in many other ways, excuse the language, it sucks. We're liars, we're thieves, we're pathological deceivers, we're pillagers. Unlike in Myanmar, where they take their violence like this, invert it. America, what do? We go like, hello, Iraq, hello, Afghanistan, hello, Yemen, through Saudi Arabia, bomb, 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 stock prices go up, 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 up. And America's looking like some great place of democracy, when in fact, it's quite genocidal. And frankly, and I'll stop here, if we had some people from Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Central America, some of the places in Africa in the room right now, do you know that I have no arms and limbs based on American weapons? 1 million civilians, or how many were murdered and killed and bombed in Iraq for a lie? A total lie. We knew it was a lie. President Biden has a video that's gone viral, standing in front of the Senate, passionately pleading attack. And he knew at that time there were no weapons of mass destruction. A Ming Online lie by our president. That's a crime against humanity. Afghanistan, an absolute failed, not a war, a failed invasion. A decimated country based on what? So the forever war consciousness of it. My point is, Daw Suu represents nonviolence, a measured, disciplined, dignified military that's hard to reel in because they've been trained to be servants of dictatorship. I dare even use this word, and I say it respectfully. They're willing to kill their own people. They're imprisoning doctors who gave birth to their wives' children. That's evil. That's pure sociopathic indoctrination. So until you study that about Burma, and you understand that about Daw Suu, the complexity of her role, stop here. You almost have to realize it requires an Einsteinian, Freudian, Carl Jungian, Buddha-like psychological wisdom to understand the complexity of Myanmar. That's why it so fascinates me, not because I was a monk there, because it's a microcosm of the world, and we have this woman, and again, I just pause right here, and as I said the first point, Aung San Suu Kyi, someone asked me the other day in the media, what do you think she would say to you, or through you, if she could talk from wherever she's in some undisclosed location? Let the world know that my well-being isn't important. It is the people that the NLD, that I and the civilian government represent. Support the people, United Nations, EU, G7, America, Canada, Australia. And I think those are some of the basic qualities in a kind of just open sharing with you. They're not partial, they're not fabricated. I think they're very real qualities, and I can say it from my humble opinion. I think I've spent more time with her as a Westerner than any Westerner in the world. It's all out front in books that we've done in films. And she's got tons of really interesting, compelling teachers, mentors, and friends and family who would say the same thing about her. And the last point, we share the same Buddhist teacher, the late Venerable Sayadaw U Pandita. And so I have through him, he and I were tight, father, son, brother, mentor, so many roles. And people don't know who was Nelson Mandela's spiritual guide. No one knows Gandhi's spiritual teacher. No one knows Martin Luther King. Did he have a spiritual teacher? Well, Aung San Suu Kyi had a spiritual teacher. His name was the late Venerable Sayadaw U Pandita. I happen to have known him for 43 years. I brought him to America, to Australia, and I've been together with he and Daw Suu. I know he is ardent in his ethical intelligence, his spiritual intelligence. Daw Suu is a meditator, and she's rooted in classical Dana Sila Bhavana, generosity, Sila, mind development. And how I know that? We share the same teacher for the last 35 years. So those are some of the qualities that I really, really admire about her, and again, not about her alone. I was blessed for her to give me an open invitation to 54 University Avenue anytime I wanted. I hung out with her sons, her family, her husband, but her colleagues is my point. They are so rad, so cool, so interesting, so funny, so measured, so resilient. Uchi Mung, for example, her mentor who passed away. Daw Suu came to him just around the time her mother was in a fatal collapse, the final month. And I'm thinking, Uncle, he said to me, of entering politics here in this country. What should I expect if I do that? And he told me, it's in our books and on film, he said, Sue, you have to expect one thing. If you get involved in politics, you have to be prepared to go to prison. And here she is. And I dare say this. I pray not it's true, but likely she will die in prison. So pray your film, your lives, your friendships, the world wakes up This woman represents the people. She represents democracy. Ma Su in Burma represents universal human rights. I have not seen anything in modern times quite like the expression of what I'm saying about her, and I say it with all due humility, but I could talk for another couple of days about this, but I'll stop right now. Those are some of the points that I see about her.